And we're back. I hope those commercials changed your life. Speaking of commercials, we need to make more money because all the money seems to be going to the Touchdown City podcast. So we're going to ask Anthony Lewis how they get so many sponsors. And we need to have Ethan Bach on evidently more, Steve. That was the biggest downloaded show we've had. Like in like months.
That's hilarious.
Ethan Bach. All right, everybody. Anthony Lewis, part of the Touchdown City podcast. And then Steve, we were talking, what doesn't Anthony Lewis do for West Virginia University football and for charity?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to big him up too much without having him on, so I don't miss anything because he brought me back to West Virginia, and I appreciate him just being a good friend and just being a great Mountaineer as well.
Yeah, it was great to have you back a few years ago. We got to try to get you back up here sometime soon. And first of all, guys, thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of the show. I always tell people you guys were the first WVU football and sports podcast. So you guys were number one on the list, and then I'm just following in your footsteps.
Well, you're doing something right because evidently Steve said you guys have a ton of sponsors, and we have none. Probably because I'm in LA, Steve's in Houston, and we just don't care. No, we do care. We'd like to make some money. That's why you got to bring us back to do a live show. We'll do it with you guys. So, Anthony, you're on the ground. Did this game help Neil Brown? Are we still having to deal with all these people wanting him fired?
Well, you know how it is, man. Like if you lose, people get fired up, and when you win, they calm down temporarily. And what people need to do is take a step back and look at the season. I mean, I was talking with Major Harris on Monday, and we were talking about you start 0-2, you look at the rest of the schedule, and you say, what can this team do to get bowl eligible? If you can get to 6 wins and then win a bowl, that puts you at 7 wins. And if you told me at 0-2 this team was still going to go and win 7 football games this season, I would have been like, first of all, I probably would have been like, you're crazy. But now I would have been like, well, I'll take that at this point. So you kind of got to look at this team big picture. They're having struggles defensively. Offensively, they're great. 38 points a game is what they're averaging. Defensively, though, they're having some issues in the defensive backfield with covering guys, and you got a young defensive backfield, and you have some guys that transferred up and are still trying to get their bearings. But the fire Neil Brown stuff, people that don't like him, and people that are patient and can kind of see the big picture are hesitant to scream fire Neil Brown.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we talk about a lot on the show is if you look at that. Yeah, I bring it up all the time. The third and fourth quarter of Towson, those kids came in and they're all looking good and prepared. Like those are his kids.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, and his guys are still pretty young. And let's just face it, the transfer portal has decimated West Virginia's defensive roster. But at the same time, you have to use it as much as you lose it. If you lose a guy, you got to replace a guy with someone as good or better, and that's his job. And, sometimes you got to roll the dice on a kid, and it may not work out, but then you could end up with a Charles Woods who could, that comes in and if he doesn't get hurt in the pit game, is looking at possibly being an All-American this year. So, but that's Coach Brown's responsibility. I'm just hoping defensively they can get it together. If they can slow some of these teams down, I think that they can definitely outshoot them here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think that's very big, I think. And two, just for defense and playing on this new level, being young, it's experience. Sometimes you need experience. Not everybody is going to be the star that you think. The 5-star recruit is used to playing with high schoolers. Now, the playing field is level because, you're 5-star in high school, but you're playing against 20-year-olds. You're playing against people that have been in this game for a little bit. So it's really just getting the bearings down. I think, like you said, defense, once our defense gets some game underneath them, I think this defensive last game is momentum to ride until the end of the season, just to know that, hey, we can bend a little bit, but when them plays are need to be made, make them.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, you're playing with a freshman, I believe, a couple of sophomores, and then some transfers. So, you know how it is, man. And like you said, you made a great point. Guys that are 4 or 5 star guys, it doesn't usually matter. It takes time because you're playing big boy football. And when you step on that football field, everyone's pretty much at level playing field. So, it takes repetition and it takes game time under your belt. And that's the one thing I hate about the transfer portal is because now we don't get to fall in love with a kid and go, man, this kid, this sophomore, this freshman, this redshirt freshman, he's getting a little bit of playing time. He's doing well. He's in the backup role, but man, next year, the year after, look out. We don't get to see that anymore. These guys take off, and it's unfortunate.
Do you think that's, we've seen a lot of folks enter the transfer portal, and guess what? Didn't work out too well for them. A lot, especially in basketball. Do you think that there is a world where maybe this starts to calm down a bit and people kind of reevaluate? Like, hey, man, jumping schools might not be the best thing for me.
I think so. What did they say? How many, like 2,000 kids didn't get to make it to another school after they entered the name in the portal. Several West Virginia kids have left and were starters and All-Americans at West Virginia in football and have gone, and they wanted to play at a higher level, so to speak, and I use air quotes, higher level, and they go and sit the bench somewhere else. I always tell people, I've had some friends when I was younger that were being recruited. One guy was a tight end. He was being recruited to play, and his options were like West Virginia, Purdue, and Georgia. And he wanted to catch footballs. He wanted to be he didn't want to be a blocking tight end. And I said, well, go to Purdue. Drew Brees is out there throwing footballs. And where did he go? He went to Georgia and with another 4 or 5 star tight end. So you got to study rosters, and you got to make sure if you're going to show up, you're going to be the man. I know everybody wants to compete, but you want to be 4 deep at your position. You got to make decisions as if you are a free agent in the NFL.
Yeah, I think the game has changed, especially with Neil and the transfer portal, just because of, remember back in the day was that freshmen didn't get to play.
Right.
You had to earn your right to play. So it's one of those things to where sometimes it take time. And I think whoever's behind these guys that telling them to leave is, hey, you might not have the right person in your ear telling you to leave. Maybe you need to wait a little bit. Maybe you need to understand the system and be the guy that's consistent and is going to stay on the field and get playing time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look at Oxford Sheboy. What a disaster that was, him leaving. I mean, he went. No, I'm just kidding. He's the exception to the rule, especially on the basketball side.
Yeah, he's making more money at UK than he would if he had a rookie deal in the NFL, in the NBA.
Yeah,
yeah, that's crazy. So I want to talk about JT Daniels. We're weirdly, I've gotten to be friends with his grandfather because he lives in LA, and I met him on the street, and he loves talking about JT.
Yeah.
He loves talking about him. He made me start to worry that maybe JT is going to go to the NFL after this season. I think it's up in the. I mean, what do you think? Because there's a lot of QBs this year. Like, it might not be the best season for him to go, but what do you based on this season and everything, like, what's your gut?
Yeah, so even before the season started, I thought he was just a one and done. I just got the feeling that he was going to come in, try to put up some numbers, stay healthy, and go to the combine. This is his 4th year in college, and I don't think a kid of his pedigree, I'm assuming that his goal was not to go and get a master's degree. I think his goal was to go and play football. I mean, he is a highly trained, 5-star football quarterback that's had a run of bad luck with injuries and losing starting positions because of injuries. I took it as if he's going to try to come in and show what he can do, put some stuff on film, and roll the dice in the combine. That was my opinion going into it. And then in West Virginia's, with their position, they've got some young guys sitting behind him that they, could battle it out next year. You got Nico and you got Goose and you got Green, which I don't know if all 3 of them stick around for next year, but you still got several young quarterbacks that could be serviceable for next year.
You're around. What's the buzz on those guys? is anybody? I mean, Nico's the one that we're all hoping for, but
Yeah, so people obviously have seen the highlights of him leading the comeback against, was it Bishop Gorman out of Vegas, and throwing up on the ball and all that fun stuff. So people are excited about him. It's been a long time since a highly touted quarterback has picked West Virginia out of high school. I mean, it goes all the way back to what, Geno, and even I mean, probably back to Geno is the last time. So, and
Yeah.
then people are excited about him, but you know what? People have said, and when I've seen him play and in practice, I really like Goose Crowder. I think Goose is going to be a good quarterback for somebody. And I'm old. I'm 46 years old, so I've seen a lot of the quarterbacks go through, and I love the Mark Bulger story. I love a guy that'll be patient and find the right opportunity and take advantage of it. Mark was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be a first round pick, and he gets hurt and goes to the deal. He goes to the Saints and he ends up on the Rams, and he's a third string guy, and he waits his turn. And I'm like, want to see a guy like that. I want to see Goose just take his reps in practice, get comfortable, and then come out and sling it when it's his turn. And Nico as well. I think it's going to come down to those two guys. I'm not so sure that Pat or Garrett Green can do what those guys do in the passing game, and I know that's what Graham Harrell will want.
Let's talk a little bit, Steve. About Anthony and what you do with the Sugar Bowl Foundation and YMCA's and we're big believers in giving back, and you do it a lot. So this is the time. Tell us what you've been up to and how people can help out.
Sure. So, unfortunately, I lost my dad in 2010. He passed away from lung cancer, and at the time, we had started, even before his passing, had started thinking like, well, what can we do in the community here? And I live in the Charleston area here in West Virginia, and so after he passed, I had been at a child shelter called the Davis Child Shelter in Charleston, and was working in the news business at the time. I was how it is. You go story to story to story to story, and I was like, "Well, guys, I got to go. I got to get down here to, I think, the Red Cross or Salvation Army was doing their Angel Tree toy distribution." So the lady at the Davis Child Shelter tells me, that's a great project, and it's just unfortunate that our kids here get missed. And I'm sorry, I've got a 135-pound dog trying to climb on my lap. And she says, it's unfortunate our kids here get missed a lot because they're teenagers. So when you think about toy drives at Christmas, what do people do? They bring toys. And the teenagers get missed. They're more gadget type, people. So I took it upon myself. I was like, well, I'll focus on these kids at this shelter because they're teenagers. So we started putting on these WVU football game watch parties. I partnered with Buffalo Wild Wings, and they've been an awesome partner for 12 years now with me. And a lot of the former Mountaineers like Steve, I reach out to them, tell them what we're doing, and they're gracious enough to spend their time and come in. I flew Steve in from Texas, and he spent a couple of days here with me and my friends, and I'm blessed to have a great group of friends that like to have a good time. So we make it a good time for those guys when they come to town. But, a lot of people in the last 12 years have caught on to this thing, and we've grown with supporters. We have media sponsors now. I've got a radio station that donates radio ads. I've got a billboard company that donates billboard ads. But that's just the grind, that 12 years. Because 12 years ago, I couldn't get anyone to give me anything. And I think now people see the repetition and have seen it on the news, and they know the name, the Sugar Bowl Foundation. Which it's funny, a lot of people in this area thought it was named after the USF&G Sugar Bowl, but my dad's nickname was Sugar Bowl. So we named it after him. But, we're going to be doing another one here on November 5th. I'm really excited. We try to bring in guys. Pat's been here before. Rasheed Marshall, of course, Steve. We've had Amos Zaraway. I'm trying to think of the list of guys that have came in over the years to support us, and I don't want to go on without mentioning, even if the guys can't make it, if I reach out to guys I don't know, like Steve and I didn't know each other personally, but this is what Mountaineers do, guys that even if they can't make it, I'll say, hey, if can I send you some pictures? And I'm not a memorabilia dealer, so I've got a tote of stuff in my room right now, stacks of stuff that the guys will send, and I'll just keep it, and I'll get it out every year, or I'll donate it to other organizations. I'm going to one on Saturday called Guys Night Out. It's for the YWCA, and I'll donate some autographed pictures to their cause. I think last year or maybe the year before, I think they did about $1,200 on the stuff that I donated. But it's because of all the people that have pitched in that we've been able to make it this far. So November 5th, West Virginia plays at Iowa State, and we're going to do another event. Darius Stills is going to come down from, I think he's out of Fairmont now, and my buddy Grant Wiley. So,
Grant.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat because
the financial genius, Grant Wiley.
Yeah, it's neat because it's not often that you get two consensus All-Americans in the same room at the same time. So I think that's the way we've been kind of advertising it. Two consensus All-Americans, one awesome night, and for one awesome cause. So, the money raised will every year on Christmas Day, I visit the Davis Child Shelter. And then we added the kids at the Cross Lanes YMCA. So we jumped from, supporting a small number of kids. I think we supported 44 kids last year. And our goal for this year is 50. So, it's just a labor of love. And I feel like it's a well-oiled machine. And I don't feel like I have to spend a lot of time doing it. It is a lot of time. But at the end of the day, it's, it's worth it, and Steve can attest to it. It's a good time. We have a lot of fun. Even when the guys come to town, we have a lot of good times.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we need more people like you. And I think, like you said, having Mountaineer Nation support you and do those things for, 12 years to be able to still running and being more successful year by year is a testament to yourself and just to the love that you bring to the state of West Virginia.
Well, I appreciate it. I just look at myself as more of an organizer. It takes an army of people. Even last year, Steve, you sent me 10 more pictures in. The guys, Pat just sent me some pictures, and
Anthony, if you'd like one of my cars signed from the movie Cars, I will send it to you. I think you might get like $1.50 for it.
Hey,
but hey, every cent counts,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, our goal this year is 50 kids. So we're 3 weeks away. So every day after work, after my regular 9 to 5, I log off, I clock out, and I sit and work for a few hours on the project. So it's getting close.
So if you're listening and you want to know how to get involved, go to the show notes. There'll be a link there for the event on November 5th, and we'll also put it up on our social media and help promote that. Somebody who's left the state, and I've, been recently coming back to teach and do some other things in the state. When I come home and I see guys like you, and I've got a, friend back home named Scott Fury, who inducted me into the Hall of Fame thing, and that I've been home and like keeping it going, like, keeping what, the state, going, like actually putting in the time and the effort, and it inspires. And I hope more people who have left West Virginia remember that that's home, and we need to do whatever we can to support it.
Yeah. And again, there's so many people that contribute to this. One of my best friends down the street, the guy with all the television, Steve, my buddy Alan,
Yep.
They come every year and support it. There's some people that literally I see once a year, and it's at this event. The TV stations are involved now, and it just, like I said, I just kind of look at myself as the organizer, and there's a lot of people that kick in, and I appreciate each and every one of them.
We do too. We definitely do too.
Hey, before we jump into our game, let's talk about your podcast for a second. I'll be honest with you. I told Steve it would be great if we could get Avon on, and then he brought me Anthony Lewis, but that's okay, Anthony.
You got wish Avon.
Hey, I brought Ethan Bach last week, so let's be no Anthony. It was funny because he said who was coming over, and I'm like Anthony Lewis, and I'm like, I went on Facebook. Oh, Anthony Lewis, because it's one of those things where like I see, when you interact with people on Facebook a lot, you don't always get like who everything put together. So I was actually very happy. We're really excited to have you on and play this game later. But talk about the podcast, and it sounds like things are going quite well for you.
Yeah, so I've been producing. This is our third season with the Touchdown City show, and we've been blessed. I'd done another show for a few years and got burned out on the long longevity of it. It was 33, 35 weeks doing a full football, basketball, and I just wanted to focus on football. I'm a football guy. I mean, I like basketball, but I'm really a football guy, and so I thought, we can do 15 weeks, and that makes it easier for me. And the first phone call I made was Avon, because he's here in Charleston and he can get here, and obviously our relationship goes back to my time at West Virginia. And then my friend Derek Bailey, who I call, he's like a walking encyclopedia of college football. He's one of the most impressive people I know as far as knowledge of the game and just remembering things. He can tell you that Tim Biakabatuka ran for 230 some yards in the 97 Rose Bowl. And he just tells you all these weird stats that just.
See, Steve and I need somebody because Steve and I are terrible. We make up numbers all the time.
Yeah. You need that guy, the statistics guy that can keep you straight.
Yeah.
But it's been a blast, man. We got lucky. We got picked up this year. We're actually doing radio. We got picked up in 14 radio markets here in West Virginia. I think it's about 65% of the state can find us, and it's more of a syndicated show. We produce it and then send it out to the stations, and they run it when they want, between Monday and Tuesdays. We've just been really lucky. HD Media, the company that cuts the check, they've been very good to me, and they've not told me no anything that I've wanted, but we've been trying to deliver a solid product for them and getting out and promoting it, and that type of thing. You know how it is, man. It's tough. You got to get out there, and there's a lot of shows in this space now. I know, like I said, you guys were the first ones, and then when I was with the Section 304 guys, I think we were probably the second ones on the scene, and then now there's a million of them. Some of them are really good. I listened to you guys a few weeks ago on my way to Columbus. I had listened to Owen Schmidt and maybe the one before. There was a couple episodes, but I bounce around and listen to all the shows, and just to hear what everybody's doing and talking about and their perspective. People. There's a lot of really good ones out there. So.
There's also a lot of terrible ones. Let's be honest. Let's just be honest, folks. What's the name of that company?
HD Media.
Hey, HD Media. There's another big radio corporation with West Virginia at the beginning who kind of dropped the ball with our show this season. Just saying.
Well, I'm good friends with the president of the company. I will text him.
I thought with Tony in our corner, we would just get everything in the world we want, because Tony Caridi is everything. He is the legend of all legends. Well, listen, Anthony, it's great having you on, and we're gonna do it more often. I can't wait to have you on again. But us, we like to play games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I wanted, we're not doing our normal game. I think our game and maybe some of the salty language that I use is probably what's kept us off of a lot of places. But this game is actually family friendly. Pat White would like this game.
Okay.
This is a game Pat would like. Where's Pat at? Pat's by the way, in LA. Don't hear from him.
Yeah.
We don't talk. So busy coaching the Chargers.
I texted him. All I got was a thumbs up.
Well, I mean,
it's
been fun watching him, and it's great. And hopefully, when the season's over, Pat will be back on and play with us a little bit. But the game I put together this week is called the Charity Game. So here's the deal. I'm going to read you the name of a charity. You're going to tell me whether that is a real charity or one I just made up. All right. Steve Slaton won last week, which was the first win in probably 6 years. It's been quite
a lie.
It's the second one of the season, maybe. So Anthony, you need to bring him back down to earth, okay? Okay, first one to Anthony, the Human Fund, charity or not?
The Human Fund is a charity.
Steve Slaton.
He said that too reassuringly, but as always, I would go against for the first one. So not a charity.
Obviously, neither one of you are fans of Seinfeld. That is the charity that George Costanza made up and took a donation from his company.
Where I've heard it before. I literally hear that, the Human Fund. But maybe
I was just watching Seinfeld this morning.
I still send out to friends. I'll send them a little note and say, hey, I donated $1 million to the Human Fund for you. Okay, so that's Steve Slaton first on the board, 1-0. Right. Steve, this one's to you. This one's called Sandwiches United. Is this a charity or not, Steve Slaton? Sandwiches United.
Sandwiches United. It doesn't sound. No, it's not a charity. It don't sound. No, it don't sound like it.
Sandwiches United. What would they possibly be? I don't know. Are they cheese folks? I'm going to say, just so he'll either get way ahead of me or I'll tie him up. I'm going to say, yes, it's a charity.
I'm sorry, that is not a charity. That's one I made up because I love sandwiches and I think they deserve a charity. So there you go. All right. This next one is going to you. Anthony Lewis down 2, but just like the Mountaineers, you could still come back and win the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm going to have to block an extra point here.
Clowns Without Borders.
I think that's to me. So
that is to you.
Clowns Without Borders is not a charity.
I feel like there's another charity without borders, but it's like
there is Doctors Without Borders. Okay.
Doctors Without Borders, Clowns Without Borders. See, that sounds like something that could happen though. So I'm gonna say it's a charity. I'm gonna do that.
That is a charity, and this is what they do. They bring clowns to places where they're having hardships to cheer people up. I think that's horrible because the clowns are the worst. And honestly, they should send them somewhere dangerous, is what I say.
Down 3. Are you going to remember the old Rock and Jock basketball where they put the 10-point hoop out? Can we put the 10-point hoop out?
No, we'll do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We don't play like that here. Okay, who's this to? Steve? Steve, yeah, this is to Steve. Helping Hands Monkey Helpers.
Helping Hands Monkey Helpers?
Yes.
See, that still sounds like a play on something. Because monkeys being... it's a charity. I feel like it's too wild not to be. It's a charity.
I'm going to say charity.
That is a charity, guys. Good job. They get monkeys to help people out who don't have hands. I'm not joking. Or they have other things. I like to imagine they only give them to people without hands, but I think they do a lot of different things. But monkeys are horrible to be around. I don't know if you've ever been around a real monkey, but they're not nice.
No, they're filthy.
Nasty little creatures. But evidently these are very well-behaved monkeys. Okay, here we go. Last one to Anthony. Be a Deer donate a brassiere. Is that a charity or not?
Man, I feel like I've heard of something like this. I'm going to say it is. I feel like I've heard of something like this before.
Steve, before you answer, you are going for a sweep. Unprecedented. I don't think there's ever been a sweep on any of our games ever, which makes me feel like I got to get better at writing them. But go ahead, Steve. What are you saying?
Just for the fun of it, I go against them, so it's not a charity.
No sweep for you, sir. No soup for you either. That is charity. Be a Deer, donate a brassiere because, hey, man, brassieres are expensive, I guess. I didn't really look into that one too much. Anthony, we're sorry that you lost, but we give 60 seconds to the winner. Steve, what would you like to do with your 60 seconds?
As always, I like to pass it off to my man, star guest today, Mr. Lewis.
Anthony, you have 60 seconds.
Find you. Tell us about your handles, your social media.
Sure.
Give us all that.
So my show is the Touchdown City Show. You can find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. My personal Facebook, I'm just Anthony Lewis, and I believe my Twitter is Anthony_H_Lewis is my Twitter handle. Yeah.
That's a horrible Twitter
Well,
handle.
I've had it since 2011. So, and I never changed it. I'm not real active on Twitter personally, but and then of course the Sugar Bowl Foundation. You can find it. We're actually hopefully going to have the website up. It might be up right now, so maybe by the time the listeners get to it, it's the Sugar Bowl Foundation.org, and it'll have. It's basically an events page for all of our upcoming events, so people can find us over there.
Steve?
As always, you can find me on Twitter, Steve23Slaton, Instagram, Mr. Slaton.
I'm at Matty Staudt, MattyStaudt, but follow the podcast, the Burning Couch Podcast, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. It's at Burning Couch Pod. We will have some merch up, I think, this week. I think it's finalizing, so we'll have some merch up for you this week. The other thing that we want to tell you about is we've got video. We're doing video. It's on YouTube. Go to YouTube. Look the Burning Couch Podcast up and see some videos of Steve and I talking. It's very fascinating stuff. You see where I live. See where Steve lives. It's fantastic stuff here. The other thing I want to do is thank. I guess we'll thank our producer Vince. He does a good job putting it together. I will say that at the end. Good job editing. And James Severe, thank you for working on video stuff for us, and everybody at Jam Street Media. Don't forget the new podcast that I produce, More to It, with Marcellus Wiley on the Dan Patrick Network. We launched this week with Lil Wayne. Next week is Bruce Smith. And Deep Cover, The Real Donnie Brasco, season 3 launched today. So if you want to hear, and here's the thing about that, let me just tell you something. Joe Pistone, who was Donnie Brasco, you guys have seen the movie. Mm-hmm. He gave me all his tapes from when he was undercover, like cassettes. I digitized them last year. My sound designer cleaned them up, and now they're crystal clear. So you hear these conversations. He's hearing them for the first time, a lot of these since the trials.
Mind blowing.
You got to hear these mob guys talk for real. The movies cannot do them justice, but you do hear how good like Johnny Depp did or doing Joe, and then also Pacino did doing Lefty, but big conversations. Anyway, it's the greatest season we've ever had. Please go listen to that. Deep Cover season 3. There's all the plugs. Thank you very much. Steve, anything else that we're missing?
In honor of our guests, if you can be a blessing, do the blessing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Do it.
From Jam Street Media.